Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wrist Cheese Radio Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Schmidt, and your place for horological hot takes, taboo topics, and often unpopular watch opinions. As always, I'm joined by my good buddy. You guys know him, you love him, Mr. Bro Dinky. Bro, what's going on, my friend?
Schmidt, we made it to the big 5-0.
I know, man.
2
5-0.
weeks from a year now.
2 weeks. Can you believe it? I can't believe it.
Yeah, crazy. It's been a good week. Had a good week at work. Obviously kicked off some fun stuff we'll talk about in a moment, but so far so good. How about yourself?
You know, everything's been good. Ramping up for the newest addition to our family coming here shortly. So that's going to be a big deal. So work's getting a little slammed and crazy, but you know, we're taking it one step at a time, getting the last little bit of stuff done that we can. So
Yeah,
we're excited.
Get ready for that, because once it gets to 2-on-2, you're at even strength, and it's a little more of a challenge there to cover the field.
That's what everyone says. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. As we do on the show, there have been some new releases of late, and I know one that you are dying to talk about.
Oh,
because
yeah.
It was the talk of the town this week. We have a new X33 Speedmaster.
The new Mars Timer is going to be an amazing watch. I mean, this is a new addition to the Speedmaster family, and it's going to do so many more cool things than the older version could ever do. So the previous version that's now, I guess, considered Gen 3, this will be Gen 4, was the Skywalker. This is another Mars Timer. So an incredible watch that now will be able to track Martian time as it's relating to Earth time. So for those of you who don't know why this watch was created, basically scientists from the ESA were looking for a way to do science experiments on the Martian surface and still track everything, because there is a difference of time by about 39 minutes and 35 seconds between time on Mars and time on Earth. So as a way to make things simpler, they approached Omega about making a new timepiece to track all this. And so the Mars Timer was born. So this watch is going to allow you to track both basically Earth time and Martian time at the same time, cycle between those things, and introduce an entirely new complication that I've never seen before on one of these watches called the Solar Compass. This is probably the one thing I want to see the most on this watch, but it allows you to track true north on both Earth and Mars, because Mars doesn't have any poles. So there's no magnetic fields to pull a compass needle around to tell you what true north is. So the only way that you can do this, I guess, is through solar and how it is positioned against the sun.
Okay.
As far as I understand. But this watch will be able to do it on both planets, which is going to be really exciting to see. So I don't know when they start hitting stores, but it looks to be very cool.
And for those who haven't seen it, it has almost like a rusty red bezel on it.
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting technology. According to Omega, it's a process that they utilized before on the 007 No Time to Die watch, which is going to kind of frame exactly what we're talking about here today. But it's a process called oxalic anodization, and it allows them to create a unique color that's basically a harder anodized coating. It's typically, from what I understand, 2 to 3 times harder than standard coatings, but it is a unique color, gives it kind of that rusty Martian surface look. And I think it's very cool to put on a watch like this. So I'm excited to see it.
I have 2 questions. One is this going to be nicknamed like the Matt Damon for the Martian? And then number 2 is, there has to be some sort of time zones on Mars, right? Is there going to be some sort of a way to track some super complication to track multiple time zones on another planet eventually?
I mean, as far as I understand from the features of this watch, you'll be able to track Martian time coordinated, or MTC, which is basically UTC here on Earth, universal time.
I think that's like mean time or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Solar time.
So it's basically Greenwich time, right? It's the new approved vernacular. UTC is now approved vernacular for GMT, what people used to call, right? But they have an MTC, which is Martian time coordinated, and then there'll be an MT1 and MT2. So you'll be able to set 2 additional different time references on the Martian surface as well to track all at the same time. I don't know exactly how you figure this out and how you make those complications or calculations in this watch, but apparently it's so advanced that the older movement that was in the Skywalker literally could not process it. So they had to design an entirely new movement.
Okay.
So I'm pumped, as if you couldn't tell.
As I knew you'd be. So I was like, let me let him take that one in. speaking of things that come from space, Zodiac dropped a meteorite dial Super Seawolf. Pretty cool. Watches.com collab.
It's so sick. It looks
Yeah,
great.
real cool. I think it's a 182 piece limited. Comes in just under $2,000. Jubilee or Orange Tropic both look pretty good. It has orange accents. Pretty cool kind of gray meteorite dial, matte gray bezel. And I believe it's coated DLC in gray as well. So they really wanted to accentuate that dial. They really didn't make the rest of the watch too flashy.
Yeah.
But I think it looks cool. Again, it's an LE and it's a pretty small LE. But if you're into meteorite, it's like a pretty reasonable price to get in at, right? I think only like Zelos does that cheap.
Exactly. Yeah. Zelos. I mean, the next step up, you're looking at Omega, but that's like Gray Side of the Moon, Daytona.
Yeah, you're up there.
JLC, you're getting up there. It's especially this type of meteorite. I had to double check which one they're using, but from what I can tell, it looks like it's the Gibeon meteorite from Africa because of the striations. It's kind of what I see, but I could be wrong. So
I forgot. I saw it earlier. It's some very long word that looked very hard to pronounce.
Well, there's basically what they're referring to is probably the Winmanstatten pattern, which is the actual like striations. Like some scientist who was German discovered this, that if you acid etch certain types of meteorites, it will create this striated pattern. And his last name was Winmanstatten. So there you go. That's usually the name that people are talking about. But the actual meteorite itself, I think, is probably the Gibeon meteorite, which crashed roughly about 4 billion years old in Namibia, Africa.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Fact check me.
Yeah. Last little bit of housekeeping before we get moving here. The Nomos giveaway is live. So if you are interested in that, hit that up. It's pinned to the front of my page. I believe Nomos is going to put their own little post about it out maybe tomorrow, the next day. But either way, thanks everybody for pitching in. Had a good first day. Really pleased with where it's going and just the whole effort in general. Thanks a lot. Keep an eye out for the Strap Habit straps coming in either this coming week or the next. And just been a great effort overall. Just a big thanks to everybody. I'm going to stop beating everyone over the head with that.
No, it's amazing, man. It's really cool to see it.
Yeah. So just wanted to get that out there. And moving on, as you alluded to earlier, there is a bit of a theme to this episode. I don't know if everybody knows this, but coming up on October 5th is going to be the 60th anniversary of James Bond's screen debut. And with that in mind, we actually have not one guest tonight, but two. A pod mashup, if you will. So we have with us the Blunt Instruments podcast, and that's our friend Lorenzo, who you might remember from the Connery sub episode at Omega Bond Watches, and his good buddy Luke, who is at Bond's apartment, in case you were wondering. But from there, I will let them take it. Guys, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your pod?
So
Go
guys,
ahead,
thanks for having me back on, guys. Bro and Schmidt, it's great to be back. Love what you guys have been doing, but a little bit about myself. I run the Omega Bond Watches Instagram account. I have a YouTube that has like 4 videos that have no watches in them. And no, it's just my channel is basically what it says it is. It focuses on the screen worn versions of the Omega Bond watches. So that's kind of my bag. That's what I do. I don't like to call myself an expert, but I definitely know a lot about them. And yeah, that's kind of like what I do. And then I share a podcast with my good friend Luke here, who also has a different channel. I'll let him go ahead and talk about our podcast.
I think you're an expert. I think you're a watch expert.
Well, thank you.
I'm Luke from Bond's apartment. Thanks for having me, boys. It's good to hang out with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my page is just kind of all encompassing Bond. When I started it, I thought Bond's apartment because in the UK they call them flats or apartments, even if you own it. And then everybody thought it was like interior decorating, which it's just absolutely not. So then from there, YouTube channel, I've been focusing on that a lot. And then of course, like Lorenzo said, the Blunt Instruments podcast, which is everything Bond, a little bit Mission Impossible as of late, a little bit Top Gun, a little bit.
How could it not be, right? How could it not
be? That's right. But yeah, that's a little bit about us, fellas.
And merch. right? Both
Oh,
of you
God.
guys just launched
Yeah,
merch
you
stores. Is that
can't
right?
say you don't focus on the house things because you do have a Luke throw pillow for the
Yeah,
couch.
but that was made as a joke because
It's
it
available.
started in two things. I'm gonna send each one of you fellas one, and then my niece just started college, so she's gonna get one to her apartment shortly,
Nice.
and she doesn't know about that either.
What am I, chopped liver? What am I going to put between me and my wife in bed?
I just told you. I'm sending one to you.
Oh, I thought you were sending it to them.
Wouldn't be the first time you and I were in bed together. It won't be the last.
We're not bringing that story onto this podcast.
No, no,
It's
no.
already going to go downhill. I can tell.
No.
It's going to be fun. It's going
I
to be
haven't
fun.
finished my first drink yet, and we're already talking about the trip to Newtown, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, a trip that will live in infamy.
Oh,
But
yeah.
for those who sort of don't know, the Bond lifestyle is it's a thing, right? It's like almost like a pop culture relevant phenomenon, right?
Let
Oh,
me
yeah.
quote my partner here. It's very underground. It's
Mhm.
very- that's what he always
It
says.
is, but it's true though. It's shockingly underground for a franchise that's been around, like you guys said, 60 years, and it's movies that have made not only billions of dollars. I mean, you've got a few that have made billions on their own, Skyfall, Spectre, things like that. It is oddly underground. I think it's underground because we're stateside, the four of
Yeah,
us, so it's
okay.
a little
Yeah.
more. It's Star Wars, Marvel, that kind of dominates the franchises here in the States. But yeah, I mean, even just getting started doing my Instagram account, there's people that are strictly Bond Instagrammers and YouTubers with 50, 60,000 followers on each one of those platforms. So it's kind of its own animal.
I think a lot of people, what they like to do is they associate fandom with being a Trekkie or being a Star Wars nut or something
Sure.
like that. And I think like when someone hears, "Oh, you're a James Bond fan," what does that mean? They immediately associate your fandom how these other franchises are, and the reality is I don't know. Like, Luke, correct me if I'm wrong. I find it very different the way
Mhm.
Bond fans approach it.
Yeah, I mean, we had a whole episode in our podcast that I think sums it up quite nicely, and it's just an episode on Bond mannerisms. And I think the biggest thing we pull from him, aside from the lifestyle, the clothes, the watches, the cars, the locations, is how to carry yourself. You know what I mean? I mean, at the end of the day, even though he's an assassin, he's also a gentleman.
Sure.
Yeah,
Maybe
absolutely.
more back in some of the older films, but I think that's opening the door for somebody, pouring the water at the table for everybody before yourself. Little things like that, kind of things that Lorenzo and I and company really extract from this character.
It's cool.
Well, I'm like Dan Rather right now.
Well, I only found out about it from when I met, I'll use quotations, but met Lorenzo, and I started looking at his thing. I was like, wow, this is actually like a real thing. This is like,
Mhm.
people are into this. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think, as
Oh,
you said,
yeah.
it's probably much more prevalent overseas. I know
Yeah.
sophistication level in this country is kind of tanked.
Mm.
That's for another day, but I can understand why it would be more popular over there. I mean, there's not much going on here in the movies either, at
Mhm.
least in the more recent ones. But
Hey, we still got Top Gun. That's all that
That's-
matters. That's
That's
all
what we're
that
gonna grasp-
matters.
we're grasp-
Right.
Aviators and mustaches is all you.
Mhm.
That's it.
Hell yeah.
with
No.
that, I think, speaking of, we were talking about this before the show, the No Time to Die, the Daniel Craig War, went for how much recently?
$219,000, I think, the screen worn one.
So if
Yeah.
that doesn't show you that someone out there cares,
Right.
I can't imagine that was the starting bid. So
Someone
No, I
needed
think-
a tax write-off really
I actually
bad.
think I watched that section live, and I'm pretty sure it was either this one or they auctioned off a bow tie signed by Daniel Craig from each film. And it was either the watch or that where the auctioneer turned to like his partner and said, "What do you think we should start it at?" And he kind of went like, 14,000. And he turns and he goes, "We'll start it at 4,000." And then within a split second, it was up to like 25,000. And he turns to me and goes, "See, that's how that works." And then if it is that, that's astronomical. I mean, as you guys are, of course, aware, the only thing I think of when I hear auctioning a watch for that absurd amount of money is Paul Newman's Daytona.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So-
For sure.
Not quite the same price range, but still kind of nuts.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about a fictional character
Mhm.
in a multi-million dollar franchise, movie, $1 billion, when you add up everything together, like multi-billions of dollars, but one person, right? And
Right.
it's just, I mean, what's interesting about this watch is you can buy one in a
Mhm.
store today and it's exactly the same, but it doesn't have the cachet that it was worn by Daniel Craig,
Uh-oh.
using all these different locations, all these
Lorenzo's
different
getting antsy.
places. And,
I am.
I mean, that's why these watches go for what they do. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a watch that you can certainly purchase in a store, but it's not going to be the same as the one that was worn by DC. That's for sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, I think if you're paying that kind of loot for a watch of that magnitude, you want all the Daniel Craig wrist cheese you can get.
Yep.
Oh, for
Mhm.
sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
it came in a pretty bomb little case too.
But
Yeah.
here was the wild thing: is I saw some people I follow that actually were able to go to like the pre-auction, like you go in, you get to look at the stuff beforehand, and they were letting people try it on.
Wow.
Whoa.
I'm like,
That would
holy-
actually, honestly, if I
That's
had that kind of
outrageous to
coin,
me.
that kind of hinder me from wanting to buy it anymore.
Well, I mean, and I forget which film it was. I think it was probably Casino, because you wore the 45.5 millimeter Planet Ocean Casino,
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken,
Rubber strap, yeah.
on the rubber strap. Right. Exactly. So I think if I remember correctly, there was his watch. He's in that scene where he's like running through, climbing on all the buildings and jumping everything. He ends up in the embassy, right? And he's killing
Mhm.
everybody. I remember that watch went for auction like years ago, and it still had the red like dirt.
Yeah.
Oh, the
embedded
clay,
into,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
clay. It was like embedded into the bezel and on the strap and the grooves of the strap and everything. And that's how they sold it. Like
Mhm.
exactly like it was, relinquished from Daniel Craig, placed on the prop table, and then like we're gonna auction this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the fact that they let just random people try this on is kind of like it's
I'm-
almost
I'm hoping I'm wrong. I really am. But I mean, I saw someone
yeah.
trying it on and they were there and it had the V1 bracelet on it. And I mean, there's no way to really distinguish if it was the one he was wearing unless you see like the marking on the back,
yeah.
So I don't know if it was the actual one or if it was their personal one. But V1 bracelets on that watch are, they're pretty rare, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
So seeing him wearing it with and taking this photograph right there, and I looked and I saw the pillow down there. So I was like, did he really try that on? And I was just kind of like, oh, this is wild.
It's like that guy's probably not employed anymore.
Depends. Who was it? Do we trust this guy, or is it just is it a big fat liar? Who was
I
it?
don't know. I gotta go back and
Gaslight
look.
him.
They probably just a witch hunt. No, I don't know, but it's just like the one they sold like I don't know, was it 2 movies ago? The one that Daniel Craig wore at the beginning of Skyfall, the custom made Planet Ocean made out of grade 5 titanium. Now that's a piece I would be like dying to own.
Yeah, it's a one-off. It's
That's
literally a one of
that's
one.
a custom, you're not buying that at the store.
Yeah. As they call in Switzerland, a piece unique.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys. In No Time to Die, Q puts that little EMP thing on the back of that No Time to Die. If they were to sell the watch with that on it, do you think that would make it more valuable or less? Maybe it's like a removable piece,
like the
or something.
actual
Yeah.
one used in the film.
Yeah,
I think it would be cool to sell it as an accessory to it.
Mhm.
Yeah, hello,
Like it, just
Omega.
make it special case and have it sitting there. And if
Well-
you really want to be fancy, you can throw
Well, I
it
mean,
on.
if Omega is ever listening to this and you sell that as a separate accessory for Bond collectors, I think you would sell them 100%.
Oh,
and
you're
if it's
saying
cons-
like at omega.com or something.
I
on the
mean, why
boutique.
not?
Like mass produce.
I mean, how many thousands of these watches have they sold?
Schmidt, you're flicking a big nerve on me right now. I don't like it. I'm like ready to punch my screen right now.
Why?
You look a little red, and I can't tell.
Why are you
I am
getting
just
your
upset?
screen or
Because I 1000% agree with you. I don't know why they don't do these things, and it's not my place to say who makes these decisions, but it's like, hello, give the people what they want.
yeah.
Quote.
Well,
Jeremy Price.
Well, maybe Lorenzo, you'll have some more influence and get brands like Omega to finally start listening to a little bit more stuff and get it out there.
Oh, they don't want to listen to me.
Hey, you never know who listens to the podcast. That's for sure.
That's for sure. Trust me, we found that out the hard way once or twice.
Uh-oh. That's a story for another time, huh?
There's
Yeah,
a lot of those popping up all of a sudden.
I will say, one of the first ones that I ever got was somebody had DM'd us and said, "I love your show, but do you have to say the F word so much?" And he was like, I usually listen to it with my son in the car. I was like, well, then
Ooh.
listen to it without your son in the car. I mean, it's
Vaughn
like, it's
is a
called
man of
blunt
action.
instruments. You know what I mean? I can't be like, you know what? This really sucks. I'm sorry, pal. I actually tried. I tried for like 15 minutes of an episode. It didn't
It
work.
was weird. It was very weird.
It was a tough,
Out of
it was a
character.
tough,
Out of character.
tough scene.
But so anyway, we are all here today gathered to commemorate sort of Bond's 60th anniversary of being on the silver screen. And in that vein, we are going to be playing a little game where we are going to be picking watches for what we're going to call the 6 Bond personas portrayed on the screen, right? So we have Sean Connery, George Lazenby, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan, Daniel Craig.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeesh.
We, the wrist cheesers, are a little bit more casual than the professionals. So we're going to take a little bit of a back seat here and go one each. The other guys are going to strut their stuff and impress us. And so we're going to kick it off. I guess we'll go in, chronological order here. We'll start with Mr. Connery. That pleases the court.
Yep, that works for me.
All right.
So that would be me. So
Yeesh.
I will give some warnings. First of all, I picked more than one because Bond wears sports watches and dress watches. So
He
I
Pick more
one
than
of
one
each.
because he's prepared for once in his life.
Yeah.
He
Normally
knows it.
I leave it all up to Luke
He knows
most
it.
of the time. The other thing is I stayed on brand. So yeah, I'm gonna rewrite a little history here because I wanted to, and I wanted to give those Rolex fans out there a little jab while I
Uh-oh.
could. So
Uh-oh.
Jeez.
Hot
We're never
takes,
coming
baby.
back. We're never
Taboo
coming
topics.
back.
Hot takes coming at you.
no, let's be clear. I have nothing against Rolex. They make fantastic timepieces. It's just that's not my bag. You
Yeah.
know, there's nothing. I think I'm not saying I won't ever own one. It's just Bond wears Omega, and that's just the way I feel. about
Anybody
it.
else here that's not my bag and just immediately think of Austin Powers? Or is
That's
I was
exactly why I
going
said
right there.
Yeah, baby.
Lorenzo has a book. Rolexes are just not my bag,
bag.
baby.
That's funny. That's funny. It's kind of Bond related, right?
Yeah, all in
Yeah.
good fun, right?
Yeah.
All right. So for Connery, obviously, for the sports watch, I wanted something that could, in my opinion, match a sub. So
Ooh.
I went with a 1958 Omega Seamaster 300 CK2913-3. And I feel like that watch is just ultra iconic when it comes to Omega's dive watches. The bezel, I love the reverse of how you got the 10 at the 10 o'clock marker and you work your way back. It screams vintage. There's a reason why they remade this watch recently. It's just heavily desired.
Mhm.
And this is exactly where I would put Connery in an Omega and how I could see him wearing that. So
so sick.
That's
that was my first
fantastic.
pick.
That's an epic pick.
I'm proud of that.
I
proud of
mean,
it.
like, and what's cool, and if I could step in here for just a hot second,
Go ahead.
what I love about this is, and I think we may have touched on this before, but these watches were actually British military issued, even at that time.
Yeah.
So a real life James Bond would have actually been wearing something very similar to this. It makes perfect sense. Books or not, historically, it's correct.
Yeah.
So I love it, especially because they did versions with the law.
Yes, and that was the part that really sold it for me was the lollipop. Like I was looking at them, I was, so kind of like thinking, like, I mean, let's face it, like a vintage sub no date is a very, very tough watch to compete with.
Yeah.
As far as design notes and styling and all that stuff. And given that Omega had so many pieces around that time that kind of fluctuated in design notes, I just wanted something that I thought was like very classy, but yet had that military tool-esque look to it. So that, and didn't look like the sub. So I thought this
Yeah.
was the best route to go for Sean. As far as picking out a sports watch that he could put on a NATO that would make sense in that situation.
So cool.
See, I'm really proud of this, but I'm also thinking like, wow, so this is what it's like when Lorenzo's done his homework. And now you have no
Oh,
excuse.
no.
You have no excuse. You have no excuse.
Dude.
Because
Uh-oh,
I'm not gonna lie to
uh-oh.
you. This is what I'm
Shots
saying. This
are
isn't
fired.
even
Shots
me.
are
This
fired.
isn't even me being mean. That is the perfect pick. I am so proud of that. That was a great pick.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm really proud of what I picked out, but we'll get to them. And I know, and this is the funny thing, because these muscles I don't normally get to flex, because we're always talking about Bond and the
Mhm.
Bond watches. So when I get to like go outside, and I must say, like, since I've started my channel, it's the growth of like understanding wrist wear and how many other pieces are out there that have been influenced by so many other things. And I love like the journey I've gone on. Like, no longer do I like look at a tuxedo and expect to be putting on a sports watch because that's what James Bond does. No, I want a leather strap. I want something 35 millimeters or smaller. And I want to go back to the roots of time making and what the style was back in the day. So I love the growth and the path I've been on as far as discovering my love for horology. So
I
Very
love it.
nice. And you know what? One of these, by comparison of price to the Big Crown, can't beat it.
So much
Right.
more attainable, so much more affordable.
That's
and,
right.
yeah, it's a sweet watch. It is on my list to get one. So
One thing
hopefully.
I'll add is, and you touched on it, as from a sartorial aspect, if say you see Sean Connery wearing this and you think, how could I ever possibly get one? And they've remade it. Even in that sense, you're like, okay, it's something that I can somewhat replicate or get my hands on. And I think from a Bond collector standpoint, I think that's huge.
So, yeah, I love it. That was my pick for his sports watch. And then for his dress watch, like I said, I'm very like about the leather strap dress, very understated. I went with a 1961 Omega Seamaster DeVille, reference number 14765-3SC. It's a caliber 552. And the reason I went with this model is I wanted it to I didn't want to go for the same notes as the Gruen he had worn in Dr. No, but I definitely wanted to make sure that Omega taste was there. And back at this time, Omega Seamaster and DeVille dress watches were the thing. I mean,
John
Elvis
Draper.
wore one, John Draper and Mad Men wore one, and it was predominantly because Omega kind of ran the market on dress watches at that time.
It's true.
It was like their forte. So Elvis wore one, which I absolutely love the one he wore, other than the diamond bezel. But his was a collaboration with Tiffany's, his watch, and that one actually sold an auction in 2018 for I think $1.4 million. So I mean, as far as I know, that was the highest grossing after secondary auction watch ever sold. So I was like, that's kind of cool. So I thought about that, and so I love the slimness of the watch. Just to kind of call it a few stats, it's basically a gold. It's an 18 karat gold watch case. And let me pull up my stats here because I had to take them down. It's a 34.5 millimeter casing, and then I mean we're looking at a lug width of 17 to 18 millimeters. So I mean, very understated. You're going to put it on probably like an alligator strap, black, maybe even a dark brown, and you're going to get like all kinds of like vintage vibes with this watch. So I thought that instead of the Gruen would just be like another step in like the upscale for Mr. Connery. So that was my second pick for him.
Perfect. It's perfect.
Nah, and you know what the nice part about these is? Just even any of the old 50s, 60s Seamasters, the dress watches, they're still very, very nice bang per buck.
Yep.
Like you can get them under
Absolutely.
$1,000.
Yeah.
which is amazing. I mean, you think you're getting an Omega timepiece that's however old and still runs, and I bet it functions perfectly fine, and you're getting it for under $1,000.
And these movements are bulletproof. The 500 series movements from Omega are some of the best, most accurate movements ever made by any watch brand. I mean, I remember when I used to sell this stuff, and the occasional client would bring one of these in, and you'd send it off to Switzerland or whatever for the age of the watch, and it comes back and it looks amazing. And Omega does a really great job doing vintage services, but these watches would come back and our watchmaker would test them, and they'd be at like 2 seconds a day. Several decades old. I mean, we're 50, 60, 70 years, and just running like a champion. So what a great pick. Fantastic choice.
Luke actually has what year's yours, Luke? Your vintage?
66. Yeah, it was
66.
because I was sitting with some freaking guy at your wedding that wore an Omega vintage, and I had to buy one. And of course,
that guy's a real piece of work. Let me tell you.
Yeah, and of course, seeing Lorenzo's, Spectre vintage is just something. Just that is one where, of all the watches you have, Guy, that was the one where, and what it is, but it's like that was absurd. So seeing that one, and then seeing Schmitty's, I had to snag one of those.
Yeah. And that's a watch too, Lorenzo, that I don't think that too many people know, that your 321 Seamaster.
Yeah, a lot of people don't recognize it, even like unless I like call it out when I post it. A lot of people don't really like it. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, do you like realize how incredible this watch is? It's got the classic 321 movement in it. Like, this is like the mecca of like movements. like what?
Yeah.
Like, how are you impressed by this piece? like
it's A1 for sure.
Only watch fam knows.
Yeah. Well, only the real watch fam knows.
If you know, you know.
for sure. If you know, you know. That's right. Who's next?
I am. So let me paint a little picture here, and you guys can hop on me if I'm wrong here. I tried to do my homework. It's 1969. The movie is On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Bond is hunting a gentleman called Blofeld, who I believe they modeled Dr. Evil after.
That's right.
If you
That
look
is
at
correct.
him.
Great so far.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is correct.
Yeah, you're spot on, bro.
All right. So he's
More
the-
Austin Powers references, right?
Yeah.
I love it. Keep them coming.
So he's, I guess, sort of like the head of Spectre at this point, and he plans to hold the world ransom by compromising the livestock and agriculture for everyone. Right. And he apparently uses women that are enrolled in this whatever allergy study, and he uses some sort of an audio hypnosis a la like Manchurian Candidate or Zoolander, if you're more familiar with that one.
Relax, don't do it.
Yes, exactly.
Don't do it.
Exactly. And so pretty typical action movie, right? It's got avalanches, car chases, I believe even a drive-by at some point. And it features a one-off in George Lazenby. Now, he's not many people's favorite Bond, from what I understand. He wears a Submariner. He has a butt chin.
He does have a butt chin.
Right,
That's
he-
for sure.
Australian.
Yeah,
Australian.
Australian. He's got a Tom Brady
Aussie.
caliber butt chin.
Mhm.
So apparently,
Legendary.
I was digging into him a little bit because I wanted to know a little bit about this gentleman before I drag him over the coals here. Apparently, he got this role by accidentally punching a stuntman, and they saw that as being primal, and they were like, "This guy oozes testosterone. We want him." There was a direct quote taken that said, "We wanted someone who oozed sexual assurance, and this fellow has that. Just wait until women see him on screen. I'm not saying he's an actor. There's a great difference between an actor and a film star." And that was straight from Albert Broccoli.
Mhm.
And now thinking about that, I start thinking about people like The Rock, maybe that aren't necessarily thespians in their own right, but people like to watch them, right? And I think that was kind of the direction they were going with this one, is that this dude's chiseled, he's going to be fun to watch, and we'll let him blow some stuff up and see where it goes.
Why is my brain going to Vin Diesel right now?
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking.
I'm the Diesel.
Pretty much the entire
I live
Fast,
my life a quarter mile
Yeah,
inside.
the entire Fast franchise is where my mind immediately went.
Mhm.
Right. And so from all peer accounts that I saw, it seemed like he was he got a little bit of a big head going, I guess, after he became Bond, and he was a bit of a know-it-all, and I don't think anybody necessarily agreed with him on that. And he wound up giving up the role, and that's how it became a one-off. And allegedly, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but it said his agent told him that secret agents would be passe in the 70s, and he convinced him that he was going to be out, like he was going to be old news. And so he said, yeah, I believe that. And he gave up the role of James Bond, and you see where it's come today. And boy,
Oh, man.
whoops.
Yeah.
He had a nickname. They called him Redundant George. So I mean, if that says anything about his tenure as Bond. I mean, that's true. Actually, the way he got the role was he heard that he was a model, male model, and he had heard that they're looking for a new James Bond. So he went down. He was in London. He went down to Savile Row, got one of Connery's suits they didn't use in one of the films, bought a Rolex, went to Eon's offices, and as soon as the chick like turned her head, he like jetted upstairs and like walked in the Cubby Brocky's office and basically said like, "Hey, I heard you're looking for Bond." And then they started asking, "Where have you acted?" And he just started naming off random places he's never acted before.
Fake it till you make it.
Take it till you make it. Literally the epitome of this.
Yes,
Gotta love the non-internet days.
I know. Yeah, you can get away with murder back in those days.
No
I
fact
have
checks.
a very different life. Hey, fun fact. I spoke with George Lazenby's agent today. I actually did. And guess
you
what?
really?
He doesn't do podcasts.
Oh,
Really?
darn.
That's what he told me.
Almost.
Oh man, when I got that, I was like, "Uh-oh,
What
here
about
we
you?
go."
What about YouTube's?
Yeah, I should ask him.
Well, did you guys see the documentary about him on Amazon?
The
The Hulu one? What is it?
Is it Hulu
yeah,
maybe? Is it
Becoming James Bond or whatever. it
Becoming
is.
Bond?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
Yeah.
that movie's fantastic.
that
It's
documentary
hilarious.
is crazy. And
Oh,
when you
yeah.
see him on screen, you're like, this dude is also equally crazy.
Yeah.
Even in his age,
Yeah,
he's like insane. But like in the most like visceral, like ego-driven way, like hyper masculine way. It's kind of like you kind of have to respect it.
yeah.
Well, just
there
be
was-
like, I'm just gonna bull rush an office for a major studio executive and just lie to his face that I am who I say I am,
Mhm.
and then get the role. Like it's epic. It's epic.
Bro's gonna love these little side stories I'm about to tell real quick. So, like two
Mhm.
side stories. When they were testing him to be Bond, they weren't sure because he was a male model back then if he was straight or not. So they Eon sent a woman to his room that night to report if he was straight or not. So like clearly he passed the test. And then once he got the role, while he was filming, he walked into a gun store and the guy just sold him a gun because he was James Bond.
Wow.
So he came back on set and just started shooting bottles with people like standing around, just like because
With live rounds.
he could. Guy was an animal.
Yeah,
He
the
is an
guy's
animal.
legitimately an animal. If you haven't
Oh.
seen that documentary, any of you guys who are listening, go check it out. You said it's on Hulu, Lorenzo?
Yeah, it's Hulu. It's called Becoming Bond. And then the other one, which Luke, in my opinion, Luke, don't you think this is like a good one? The Everything or Nothing one that
yeah.
they did. So Eon released this one called Everything or Nothing, and it's on Apple TV. I think you can like rent it or buy it for like $5 or $10, $15 or something like that. But that one covers the whole franchise up until the 50th. And
Oh,
it's
that's cool.
fantastic.
That's cool. So
All right, back to bro.
yeah. What do you got, bro? What do you got?
All right. So
leaving
I
us hanging.
think I nailed this pick. Right. And I was kind of thinking parallels here. So between Lazenby and my watch pick, I wanted them to have similar attributes. Okay. So I was thinking one off, maybe not so popular among it, the overall public opinion. I landed on, and this isn't period correct, but I think I've got the rest. The new black and green GMT Master 2. Hear me out now. Right? It's in the vein of a classic, right? The GMT Master, it's certainly a classic, right? Check. Nobody likes it. Check. It's probably going to be a one and done. check. Right. We know Fleming was a Rolex guy. Connery wore a Rolex. I feel like this watch and George Lazenby could be made for each other in that right. And I feel like it would be such a transition, right? From going from Connery, who was a legendary Bond with the big crown sub, to this gentleman and his awkward, strange GMT Master too.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's winning. I
As
really
long as-
do.
As long as he wears it on his right hand, I'm all in.
Yeah.
Make it even more awkward
With an
to
Apple
wear the
Watch on his left.
Oh man, that's funny. That's funny.
Right.
I like
Obviously,
that.
those the actor as Bond and the watch don't exist in the same time period,
Right.
but
But
It's fine.
game is,
whatever.
you
our
using what you
rules.
know now.
it's
Yeah.
our rules. We can make them as we go.
That's right. God
It
damn
plays. It plays.
See, I honestly, bro, that's fantastic because
Yeah.
you really analyzed. You really do your homework, and yeah, because I think of that and I think, who would ever wear this with a tuxedo? And if it was anybody, it'd be George Lazenby.
I mean, the
100%.
guy did wear ruffles, right? Like he did have.
he did.
He
He
did
did.
have the
Frank
ruffles.
Foster shirt.
I could see him doing like an American Psycho thing, but instead of with the mirror, he's just looking at the watch. Entire time.
Truth be told, I actually love the Rolex chronograph he wore in that film.
Yeah,
I absolutely adore
Pre-Daytona.
that chronograph.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah,
it's a
Schmidt, you said that was
pre-Daytona.
pre-Daytona, right?
yeah. It's a
Yeah.
pre-Daytona. It's funny enough. I was telling Bro this before we got on. It was actually the same reference of the Rolex chronograph that was submitted by Rolex for NASA testing, and it failed.
Ooh,
Yeah.
smoosh.
Funny enough,
Omega.
exact same watch.
Love it.
Omega for life.
Omega forever.
Bro, like stroked the ego of the Rolex fans, but I'm pretty sure they all left when I talked first.
Yeah, come back. Come back.
It's all good, you know. It's like we get a little bit of love, we get a little bit of hate, so it is what
It's
it
all
is.
good.
Yeah.
Like everyone has to be so like to the neck with the knife about it. It's like they're both great watches. Like just calm down. You just
Schmitty,
like
know
what you
that
like.
They sold that Rolex at Christie's. Do you know that?
Which one?
They auctioned that one, the Rolex,
The
The
pre-Daytona.
one that the Lazenby one?
41,000.
Oh, that's
Oh,
a
well,
steal.
I was gonna say
Right.
that seems decent.
Right? That's what
That's
I'm
a
saying
steal. I
about
would've-
this
That-
Daniel
that's
Craig
even under
slash.
market value for like probably what it is normally.
I was gonna
isn't
say,
it, bro?
what is the going rate for a
Yeah.
pre-Daytona?
Well, that one I found for like 38 to 50 range, and depending on condition. But I mean,
that's it's kind of embarrassing.
I
honestly.
would have
Yeah,
lifted the
'cause-
paddle on redundant George's Rolex pre-Daytona.
They were like,
Absolutely.
Lazenby wore it discount.
Discount.
Yeah.
You know,
It's-
we're gonna pay you. to
That's
take-
good. That's
I mean,
good.
but it's kind of true because I'm looking at it right now on the internet. A normal Rolex pre-Daytona is 6238, which is what that reference was.
Mhm.
6238. It's going for 58,000.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'd do that.
So somebody
Eek.
bought a screen-worn George Lazenby Bond
Hey.
watch for under market value.
Hey, bro, Namath
Boys.
over
Sounds
there
right.
hit the nail on the head. He's
Sounds
right. They literally go, "Hey, this is James Bond." What? Sean Connery wore that? No, George Lazenby.
Oh,
I feel like that'd be
Oh.
like an episode of The Simpsons or something, and Homer's like at a watch store buying something.
Yeah, all episode long, he's thinking he's buying James Bond watch, and then he
Yeah.
gets there and George Lazenby sells it to him, and he's just pissed.
He's like, "Oh man."
I actually went to the car dealership today with my dad, who was picking up his new car, and the salesman had a Rolex date just on from the 90s. I was like, "This beautiful watch, man." And he's like, "I almost bought a Daytona a few years back." And I'm sitting there, I was about to say, what was it? 14, 15, 16 grand. He's like, "It was new. It was 9,000." I'm like, "You are
Yeah.
out of your mind. Why did you not do that?"
Because people don't know, man.
Just dumb. Just
Back,
dumb.
back in the day, people just didn't know.
Nope.
And what are you gonna do?
Mm.
That is so funny though.
You wanna know his reasoning?
38 just under retail.
I want to know
Oh,
the
yeah.
reasoning.
His
I gotta
reasoning, you all of you guys are gonna log off. His reasoning was when
Doesn't
he's
have a
sitting at
Cyclops.
work. What's that?
no, I was gonna say because a Daytona, as cool as it is to watch people, the iconic Rolex has a Cyclops and I would say a fluted bezel, and I don't think you're
Right.
getting either one of those on a Daytona. So
Right,
No.
right. No, his reason that would be good reasoning. His reasoning was when he sits at the desk, he's like, because the Daytona doesn't have a date. So I like having the date when I'm sitting at my desk. I'm like, you've got a computer and a cell phone. And then he goes and he's like, and I'm here a lot. So if I'm not here, I'm at home. So when am I going to wear it? I was just like, buddy, you and I went from being best friends to I don't know who you are anymore, and I'm going to leave. you.
Yeah, that's a guy
He
that
just lost his car
Oh.
sale.
Yeah, yeah. I was
He
like,
almost
if-
did because of the
Yeah.
rims.
I was like, if my dad was a car guy, he would get out. He would skirt on out of here. Yeah, that's an inside joke.
No, see, that's
That's
the thing
funny.
that drives me
That's funny.
crazy is like, I love when people go, "Oh, well, it doesn't have a date, so I don't like it." I'm like, what?
That's why you've got a date. It's got the day and the date.
Like, is it that like? Are you that crushed
Hard-
that complication is missing?
Yes.
I've
Is
never heard that.
my favorite in the comments.
all the
hard
time.
Hard pass. I'm like, nobody was asking for your opinion, bro.
I've never heard that.
Everyone, I mean, I can tell you, like hundreds of times I've read comments on my page about the No Time to Die needing a date, and I'm like, you are out of your fucking mind. Oh God, there it is.
Oh, I thought that was my
could-
bag,
I
babe.
could, I couldn't. I
You
couldn't
made it
hold
like
back.
40 minutes in. All right, that's not bad.
I think I did pretty good,
Luke's still going.
but
Luke's
you're
still going.
you're out of your mind. Like that watch is it. It's perfect as it is. If you put
Yeah.
a date in there, it messes with the whole aesthetic of the watch. in my-
Absolutely. And the original didn't have dates either.
Exactly.
Well, I
Rest my
mean,
case.
everything that it's made out of and the whole, ultra lightweight design. This is a tool watch. No one's going to be like, doing what
day
he's
is it?
doing and being like, but it is the 19th, right?
but it is the 19th.
I'm only
That's
cleared
funny.
to kill on odd days.
It'd be funny
I'm
if
100
like
meters underwater.
Oh yeah.
what day is it?
Did Q say he was picking me up today or tomorrow? So who's next?
I think it goes back to me.
Roger.
I wanted to get mine out of the way quick. That's why.
Yeah.
So,
No, no love for the more.
Answer my
you know
pants.
what? For as I'm hoping my picks for Roger are gonna hit as well as my picks for Sean, because I definitely went the complete opposite direction for Roger.
Okay. Exciting.
Based on and I when I made these picks, I really dove into two things. One, I looked at the type of watches he wore during his tenure, which was all Seikos and all digital.
Yep.
And I absolutely hate, and that's the nicest way I can put it, the Hamilton Pulsar he wears in Live and Let Die. So I have not only picked one watch for him to wear as just his standard sports model, but I've also picked a replacement for that hideous, heinous paperweight of a watch. So
I have kind of a feeling I might know which one of them is, but
oh no,
I'll
say
tell
it. I
you.
want to see.
no, I'm
if
not
you-
going to say it.
Really?
Or you want me to say it?
I want you to say it. I want to see if you. I'll tell you if you're right.
Well, when you said I mean, the Seiko thing threw me. You're right, obviously, but the Seiko aspect of it threw me. But when you said digital, is it a Breitling?
No, I didn't do any digital, and I stayed on brand. So everything
Right.
I picked was an Omega.
Okay, well,
Ooh.
that's right. Omega Bond watches.
He's
All
gonna
right,
be next-
You guys
Is he
can
going to
turn
wear
this
an
one off now.
X33? Are we
Yeah.
gonna
I
go full
wish-
circle?
I wish that Schmitty, his face could be seen right now, because he looks like a kid in the candy store that can't wait to hear what I'm going to say.
I mean, he was
excited.
just
I'm
talking
excited.
about space and watches at the same time.
Okay,
It's
so
true.
I will start with
Pretty
the Pulsar.
sure I just saw him take out a box of tissues and light a candle. But
You forgot the mute music, boys.
And the lotion.
Why am I picturing 4-year-old virgin right now?
Schmitty places the lotion in the basket.
Okay, so I'll start with the one that I picked to replace the Pulsar. So my pick was in 1973 Omega Flight Master, reference number 145.036. It's a caliber 911 manual line. The dimensions are 43 millimeters and the case thickness is 15 millimeters. So we're talking about some wrist presence with this watch, just like
boy.
the Pulsar.
Mhm.
Big
boy.
boy with 2 C's, baby.
So
Tom
the reason-
Hanks, baby.
The reason I picked this watch is because it reminded me a lot of the watch that Sean Connery wore in Thunderball, the Breitling Top Time. It has a very similar case design.
Yeah.
However, I hate digital. So this was my way of combating that with something that had the vibes of the 70s, but also is a chronograph in the same breath. So this is a way to elevate the watch that was worn in that scene.
This
And
was your replacement for the Pulsar?
yeah.
This like screams big tuna to me though. You know?
Mm,
It's
I don't know.
got a big
Where are you at,
tuna.
Schmitty, bro? Where are you at on this one for a
It's
replacement for
got
the
a
Pulsar?
big tuna face on it, man. That's a big old face. Is it not?
I mean, it is. This is a. I mean, have you guys ever seen one of these in person? It's an
Oh.
epic watch. It is literally an epic watch. And what's funny about the Flightmaster that a lot of people don't realize is there's actually two different dial configurations. One of them had the orange accents,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This one. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yep.
and then the other one had yellow accents.
Yeah, not that one.
Well, the reason why I bring this up is because the watch itself is very cool. The Flightmaster with the yellow accents was actually designed to be worn by pilots that did nighttime flying because they could see the watches in low light cockpit settings. Because the pigmentation that they used on the dials was actually had so much more contrast and was able to be seen better in low light conditions. So there was designed specifically for pilots in mind. But this watch is so 70s, and Roger
Mhm.
Moore is just like chest hair and 70s, and like that's just what he. This is literally a perfect watch for his character.
Oh,
That's-
it's a fantastic choice.
And I love it too because overall him as a Bond, he was a very funky Bond, but very also like playful in his acting and his demeanor.
Mm-hmm.
He was obviously a serious character, but he had a very whimsical way of approaching the character. This to me seems in that same way. Like it's a very serious watch, but the way it's created is a very whimsical, fun way to do it. And I don't think I could have ever come up with this myself. And I'm kind of shocked that I didn't think about it.
He's on fire. He's
Oh
on
man, this is a
fire.
great pick.
So I'm batting. I'm 3 for 3 right now. Okay, so I got 2 more bats here. We'll see if I close out real good. So the other model I picked for him, the other
Nope.
sports model, was a 1973 Omega Seamaster automatic chronograph, reference number ST176.007, and it's a caliber 1040
Oh, I
manual
love
line.
these.
And it's a 40 millimeter case size, 15 millimeter thick, so it matches the last model. It's a thick boy. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got a lug width of 22 millimeters. So we're talking about more presence still on the wrist. However,
Yep.
I thought the blue and the way it would look with Roger, still 70s look, but still has that kind of Speedmaster vibe to it without being a Speedmaster.
Yeah.
And that was what I was really trying to avoid.
And it has a date.
and it has a
And it's
date.
got the date.
What are we gonna do with the date?
There you go.
What are you gonna
you
do?
get a chronograph and a date. Boom. So
This watch is cool too, man. I love
Yeah.
these watches.
I thought these would be perfect picks for him, and it would be refreshing other than seeing him wear 12 different, McDonald's collect all digital Casios that he wore. Like these are a gentleman's watch. It really speaks to Roger and like how he portrayed himself. Very fun with the color, a little blue. So you're getting out of the realm of like being super formal like Bond normally is. But
Mm.
I thought it was just close enough that it would be okay on his wrist during his action scenes. So
Oh,
that's why I
yeah.
picked this one.
Yeah, I love these, honestly. I just, they're so funky and extremely 70s because of all the asymmetry going on.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of the Omega handsets. I mean, even with the last watch pick and this one, any of their, Alaska projects or Flight Masters or Ultraman, like all of their cool handsets, I'm all for. And this is, no exception here. It's just a great watch. There's so much going on, but it's put together well. And like I said, it's asymmetrical, so it's almost displeasing to the eye, but they put it together in such a way that it's amazing. And
It's
I mean,
tastefully done.
yeah, exactly.
For not
it's-
being symmetrical, and I'm big on that. Like that's one
Yeah.
of my things. I can't but it just, when I looked at it, I was like, you know what, this would work just right for Roger. So
And you know what's funny? You picked two very iconic watches for Omega. Did you know they actually have a version of this where both of those watches like had a baby and created a watch?
Oh Lord.
So
wow.
if you guys have your computers up and you can Google this, It's the Mark III. Reference number is ST1760002. It's literally the same dial from the one you just talked about, put into a Flightmaster case.
Oh my god.
Well, I think this is the perfect watch here. So.
So if Roger only had to wear one,
That would be the
ultimate.
one.
It would be
Yeah.
amazing.
That
The one you picked, Lorenzo, reminds me of the Tissot that he wore.
Yeah, that's what it was kind
It's
of in
got
my
a
head
very,
a little bit.
yeah, it's got a very similar.
Oh yeah, I know. Wait, didn't
the Visa
didn't-
date, the
Yeah.
Visa date or Visa date.
Yeah, visit it. Yeah.
Yeah, the Mark T. Yeah. All right, you ready for the dress watch? Let's see if I can go perfect here. This was a really, really wide pick, but I wanted to be bold in these picks because, like I said, my watch taste has evolved. So I really tried to embrace the era and the notes of that time. So for his dress watch, I picked a 1971 Omega DeVille Emerald, reference number MD 511.0379. It's a caliber 625 manual wine. And the beauty of this watch was the emerald cut crystal they put on top. So this watch was designed by renowned jewelry designer Andrew Grima, and he was not about watches. And after being convinced in 1969 by, let's see, I have it written down, the director of production, Robert Forster, Grima was commissioned to design a collection of watches for Omega that would come to be known as the About Time collection. So he designed a watch specifically for Queen Elizabeth. So these were part of the collection, and they were a major hit when they came out. So I thought this being on Roger's wrist would be the perfect way to nod to not only London, but also the fact that it was so luxurious at that time and very 70s in its look and design.
I mean, I'm speechless. I'm speechless because
This guy over there laughing.
as somebody who is a well-known, well-talented Omega fan, again, I would have never picked this watch, but it makes complete sense.
Mhm.
It's amazing. And if you guys are Googling, if you are listening to this and you're Googling this watch, the most crazy thing about this watch is literally the multifaceted crystal.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's cut like an emerald.
Yep.
And I mean, obviously, hence the name, but it's just like it's such a cool design. Very, very esoteric, very obscure watch. And they made them in so many different variations. They had,
Yeah.
rectangular versions, sideways or upright. There was tonneau shaped cases. Like there was so many different variations of this with different funky dials. And again, very 70s, very gold, woven mesh bracelets, like everything you can imagine. Literally like the 70s in a shag carpet throw up, and this is the watch that it created.
It's glorious.
It's epic. It's epic. And such a good choice for a dress watch for more. I think you knocked it out of the park, Lorenzo. 100%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Congrats.
I put some work into it. I
Yeah,
really
and
worked.
I got to give you credit, not going the old straight and narrow with some vanilla stuff. You really brought a little heat here.
I love it.
Well,
proud.
that's very very humbling to hear that from both you guys. So thank you, and you too, Paisan. Appreciate it.
All of a sudden, we're gonna start seeing the Google Analytics for Omega DeVille Emeralds, and this just gonna start climbing up,
Blow up.
blow up. Everyone's gonna start collecting Omega Emeralds.
I mean, I'm surprised they don't already.
I know. Well, there's so many things in Omega's back catalog that just people have just overlooked and passed over the years, and it's kind of sad. But you know what? That means that there's so many cool hidden gems out there that people have not touched yet.
Facts.
And good for us as
Mhm.
collectors and enthusiasts. And for all of you guys who are listening to this podcast, go out and buy this stuff. It's cool. Like,
Oh,
who wouldn't
yeah.
want to have this watch?
Crazy people.
You know?
All right.
I mean, it's no. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you're actually up next. So we're gonna have Luke back to back here, I think. if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. It's a lot of pressure. So I'm starting with Timothy Dalton. And Timothy Dalton is actually my least favorite Bond.
What's
so
your nickname for him?
I can't say it on here. So don't try to trick me.
It rhymes with.
It rhymes with Timmy Two Sticks.
Yes, solid
So
choice.
this one, I can barely do this.
I do. I crack him at some point.
So because he's my least favorite, I've chosen 3 watches. The first one is the Moon Swatch Mission to Uranus.
I love it.
Give me the
Well
baby blue. Give me the baby blue. All right, now that that's out of the way. So the first one, I did a new one, and I actually did the Super Avenger Chronograph 48 Breitling. That would be, if you guys are really gonna try to search this one, it's A13375-101B1A1.
Yikes.
So
What kind
this
of-
one, yeah. So this one I chose because the problem with, I love the black Tag Heuer he wears. But the problem is now that they've remade that essentially, I kind of wanted to stick to the thing with Timothy Dalton, all jokes aside, is although he is Bond, he's got a very gritty feel to him. He just seems like he should be a villain. So I wanted to go luxury, but I didn't want to go, Jaeger LeCouture for him or something like that.
Yeah.
Spoiler. So this is why I chose this one. It's still, it's a Chronograph's great watch. Breitling's makes great watches. We've seen Bond wear Breitlings before. But that's why I chose this. I think that he was the first introduction of Bond to kind of a darker, edgier side. I think Craig pulled a lot from him, so that's kind of why I chose this one.
I like it.
Let's hear it.
I think it's. I mean, can you say the reference one more time? Because I didn't get all the numbers.
Yeah. So it's
I want to make sure I'm
A1
looking at the right one. A1. Okay.
337
337. Okay.
5101 B as in boy 1A1.
God, kill whoever made these reference numbers.
Yeah,
I know.
it's brand new. So.
Like horrible reference numbers. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a modern Super Avenger.
Yeah.
Super Avenger. Okay.
Yeah, so
think
I didn't
found it.
go too deep with this one, but I did for the next one. So when we get to that,
That
we'll
is
do a
literally
little
the
bit more.
worst reference number of all time.
It definitely is. It definitely is.
That's a horrible reference number. So this is the Black Dial Super Avenger Chrono.
This one right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
No, I think this is exactly how you described him. Kind of rough and tumble, clunky,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Brash.
Not too much finesse,
Yep.
Yeah.
right? Like I see almost as like a stark contrast to like a Brosnan who is like smooth as silk.
Right. Which is, and that's interesting too, bro, because I didn't choose them purposely because of the stark contrast, but it's actually going to make the fact that I'm going back to back a lot. I mean, you'll just see, if for some reason the listener doesn't know the difference between these two men, you can just tell by the watch choices
Sure.
pretty severely.
I love the watch. I just can't stand how Breitling does those non-straight lines on their bracelets.
Yes.
That would drive me absolutely
Yes,
bonkers.
that does drive me nuts.
Holy
Does
God.
drive me nuts.
I'm getting anxiety just looking at it right now.
Yep. Yep. Didn't they do that with the
guys?
Colt
Some
too?
guy just hitting delete on this podcast episode. He's like, absolutely not. How dare you insult my Breitling?
This is
Oh,
beautiful.
No, I love the case, but you'll lose me on the bracelet and the
It's
center
okay.
links.
Breitling makes different straps and whatever. You can switch. them
Thank
up.
God.
Yeah,
I was gonna
yeah.
say how they sell watches.
Get a leather strap on there.
Sorry, Breitling. I know you make some really nice timepieces, but that bracelet just hurts my eyes.
Yeah, the Rulo bracelet crushes it. This one I'm not. So
Yeah, the
sure.
Rulo's far superior.
Oh
What's
yeah.
the one that looks like little bullets lined up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
yeah,
Rulo
that's
is kind of
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried the new one
Yeah.
on. Oh my god, it was a
Just-
gigantic watch too, and it still fit amazing.
Just
Yeah.
when I think they can't get any dumber, they go and do something like that and totally redeem
And
themselves.
totally redeem themselves.
There's so many movie references and things in
Love
this
it.
episode, so I hope you guys are enjoying this one.
Easter eggs.
Easter eggs. Yeah, exactly.
I just hope bro makes a meme out of it.
Yep. So I do have a second for him.
Go nuts.
Yeah.
So this one, similar to my Paisan over here, I wanted to give him a leather strap watch too, because just it truly is something about Timothy Dalton wearing a luxury watch. Just kind of, it is strange to me. You know, he didn't get the Omega. He had the all black Tag Heuer. It's just not something I see. But this one, it's another Breitling, but this is a 1962 Breitling Navitimer Cosmonaut, reference number 809. So this one, I love these. I'll love these forever. I think I mean, the face is busy as it could possibly be, but that's the whole point.
Yeah.
I think this is one, when I see him, you know, this is one where I can actually see him wearing this tuxedo or no tuxedo and just letting it get absolutely beat to crap. That's why I chose this one. It's still a luxury watch. It's still, you know, it's chronograph. It's you could dress this up or you could dress this down, and I think it could take a real beating. And I think as a tool watch, I think it also kind of provides what he would need.
And this was a Bond watch, right?
A Navitimer was. I don't know if it was this exact one, but there was a Navitimer, yeah.
Because it was in Thunderball.
No, that's the top time. The one I was
No,
talking
no,
about.
no,
earlier.
no, no, no. I'm not talking about the one that Bond himself wears.
Oh, you mean
The pilot.
Oh,
when they
yeah.
steal the
Yeah.
nuclear warheads.
That's right.
Because
that's
doesn't so if I remember correctly, they kill the pilot
Mm-hmm.
and they basically impersonate the pilot with the bad guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
you were completely right. And there's a 1965 or 1967 Navitimer 806.
Okay, so 806, so not 809.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay,
mine's
I
a
was off by
62
one.
809. Yeah, you're terrible. You're
I
terrible.
know.
Bro,
How
don't
could
keep
I
fire this
forget all
guy.
of these little esoteric things
Embarrassing.
that
Get some
shoved in my
cooperation.
brain over the
Embarrassing.
years.
Embarrassing.
Smitty, you're out. Random person, you're
already
in.
out. Just done.
Skedaddle.
Just done.
Now, Schmidt, I'm pretty sure we brought this one up on the pod before. I can't
I
remember
think so.
where, but
I
I
think
do
so.
remember I was talking about. I remember. I think I called it the double jet. It's called the twin jet
Yep,
logo,
That's right.
and it's
Twinjet.
it's one of my favorites. But I mean, you could absolutely see Bond rocking this. I mean, the Navitimer is an all-time chronograph. There's no way to knock it in that respect, right? I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's iconic. Bond is iconic. Can't miss.
And
Yeah.
Breitling literally just relaunched this watch like earlier this year in a
Yeah.
new version.
And the thing with this one is, as I was looking at it, I can't picture anybody else wearing it. Any other Bond. I don't see any other Bond actor being able to pull this one off.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Very A1 watch for sure.
Yeah. All right. Is it Brosnan time?
I guess
Oh,
it's Brosnan
yeah.
time. This is your
Silky
favorite Bond, though, right?
time.
He's my favorite Bond.
drop
He's
the
my favorite
panties.
Bond. So we're gonna start with. So I've got one new, one vintage, somewhat deep cut. You guys will know it, bud. So we'll start with the new. It's Patek Philippe 5740/1G Nautilus.
Okay.
So this one, because then once again, Brosnan is the only Bond I can see wear a Patek. So I chose this one because, for starters, he's more of a modern day Bond versus Timothy Dalton. And when you compare him to Daniel Craig, I think this is a little too, no offense to my boy DC, but I think this is a little too highbrow. I think this is very Brosnan. I needed to give him, I'm thinking GoldenEye, Monte Carlo, this watch. That's kind of the mindset I have with this one. And I'm pretty sure Brosnan in real life is a big fan of these as well. So that was a little bit of a cheat, but that was number one.
I could definitely see that. And you know what? I could definitely see this, obviously, as a Nautilus. He can wear it to the pool for when Mrs. Doubtfire hits him
That's
with the
right.
lime.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Run by fruiting.
It's a run by fruiting. It's just, this is a very Brosnan watch.
It
I don't
Yeah.
see another Bond actor being able to pull it off. I mean, Connery, as suave as he was still, for 60s, he was still kind of a bit of a badass, and
Yeah.
this is a little too highbrow for him as well. Roger Moore, too playful for something
Yeah.
like this,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, this
I'm-
is a Patek. you know, and then
Mhm.
specifically a Nautilus, the sport Nautilus. But you're right. I mean, and the thing too, when you think about Pierce as like an older actor, more distinguished gentleman, even still today,
Hmm.
every time I see him, as old as he gets, he's still Bond.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just like he has that untangible, suave ability about him that he literally is James Bond, whether he's playing the role or not.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I think that this is a timepiece that perfectly encapsulates that.
The-
He's a very sophisticated person in his Brioni suits with his amazing ties,
right.
and this is a watch that's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, if you saw the GQ 10 essentials with him and he's talking about slippers, they're like Bottega Veneta slippers. I'm like, they're not, those aren't slippers, Pierce. He's like, I can't believe I'm talking about slippers. I'm like, you're not. UGG makes slippers. Dockers make slippers. Those are a home for people.
Costco sells
Yeah.
slippers.
Bro,
Go
I
and buy
could
Bottega.
see you're looking. Bro, Dinky, I feel like you're aching to say something. I feel
No,
like
I keep looking at this watch. I think Pierce as Bond sort of oozes debonair, and this watch
Yeah.
oozes
Mhm.
debonair. And like
Yeah.
you said, I think he's the only one that could probably pull this off. But as I think Lorenzo, we talked about this the last time you were on, that he was our Bond growing up.
Yeah.
Before
Yeah.
you knew that there was a history or that there was more than one, he was Bond. And like Schmidt said, whether he's playing him or not, he's still Bond. The hair is never out of place,
Never.
Right.
even today. Right? He's just the guy is just he's money. That's all it is. And this
So
watch
money.
just
Mhm.
it exemplifies who he is. So I think it's a great pick.
yeah,
So money you don't even know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Don't
Another
even
movie
know it.
reference. Gotta
Yeah.
keep it rolling.
and like I
Glenn-
mentioned
Glenn Fiddick,
earlier with
Glenn
the whole mannerisms thing, I think and Lorenzo knows we're both 90s. You're a late 80s kid, right, Lorenzo? 89.
Yeah, 87.
Yeah, I mean,
Old.
still a Brosnan kid for sure.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like
100%.
you look at the price tag for this watch, which is absurd.
Yeah.
Name one other. If you're looking at the actor as Bond, how many of those guys are going to buy something like this? No way.
No
way.
Well, maybe
Especially-
Daniel, maybe, but not from the standpoint of spending that kind of money on something. Yes.
Sure.
Pulling it off.
No.
Probably not. He is
No.
more like, I would say his taste is definitely more trendy and modern and
Yeah.
wearing throwback watches and
Yeah.
vintage
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he's more a traditional watch collector. I would
Right.
place him as.
Right. Right.
Aquanaut, maybe.
That's
Aquanaut.
right.
Let's
That's
go.
right. All right. So my last one, and I'm hoping this is my
Read really slow because I'm typing on my phone.
the last one was like 4 letters.
Perfect.
This one, believe it or not, is
Movado.
No, it's only 6 numbers, so you're gonna be okay.
Okay.
So this one, I've got high hopes, fellas. I've got high hopes. I'm really hoping to earn the trust of the panel here and the Wrist Cheese boys and the listeners. This is me doing the ultimate homework on Pierce Brosnan.
Okay.
So this is a Jaeger LeCouture Reverso Squadra chronographed GMT 230.2.45.
Okay. You need the name was super long.
Just type in JLC 230.2.45. So this is a Reverso. It's technically a rose gold, but it definitely just looks hell of a lot like gold.
Yeah.
It's
This is Chrono, right?
Yep. And yep, Chrono, that's the one. Chrono GMT. Alligator leather strap. This gives me Thomas Crown Affair, Pierce Brosnan vibes up the butt. I just feel like, first off, the price point is something that you could see Bond get away with, and you would definitely see Brosnan do.
Yeah.
It's a vintage. I'm trying to think of the year here. Let me see if I can find it. I can't, which is just wonderful. And it's different than your typical Reverso. Your typical is more narrow, longer. This is more square than rectangular. It's a little bit bulkier.
beefier.
Yeah. So this one I chose because I think the typical Reverso is just a little too dressy, and nothing wrong with that. But this is one where if he's wearing it with like, once again, I'm thinking Goldeneye, and he's got on a sweater and something, he can wear it, and it's not too black tie, but still just incredibly highbrow, but still not Nautilus highbrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it just, it's got the chronograph, it's the GMT, so it's got everything you could possibly want for Bond. It's got the date. Back to the date. We've got the date. And
The
we
date.
do have a
and this-
date. We do have a
this is-
date.
This is my dress watch for Pierce Brosnan. That's it. That's it for me.
I still haven't found it. Can you send it to me, Paisan?
Mhm.
It's just the JLC 230245. Just type in that. Don't put the periods. Don't do anything. It's just 230245.
Okay.
It's a red, gold, white dial, Arabic number, reverso chronograph, big date.
Okay. Okay.
Find it?
I think I got it. Yeah.
See, the biggest thing for me with this one is, and Lorenzo knows me very well, these are two brands that I don't talk about hardly ever, just because of mostly, first off, the Reverso is probably the closest. I mean, as iconic as the Reverso is, I'm not a polo player, so I'm not like trying to Reverso my way, around the field.
But
See what you
Pierce
did there.
is.
Yeah, yeah.
But Pierce is.
But it's like with this one too, like I said, with it being more square instead of rectangular, it's a little more down the path of traditional, a little more my style. I actually think he's worn this one in real life too at some point. And it's just, I don't, if I was gonna go Reverso, it would have to be more like this one. And this one is actually one I didn't even know existed until today. I didn't realize that they had one that had more of a square than a rectangular face.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I'll say this, as far as watches sort of in this vein go, it's sort of down that path of the traditional Reverso of Cartier tank style, but I
Mhm.
think the little pieces, the extra complications, the more sort of robust square shape gives it that masculinity
Yep.
that, we talk about how Brosnan is very well put together and very suave and very smooth, but he still oozes masculinity to me. He's not like
Oh, yeah.
prissy, you know what I mean? He's not like I would still never try to take him in a fight, being like, oh, this
Right.
guy's soft. He's still a badass at the end of the day. And I think that kind of nails it in that regard.
See, and you hit the nail on the head because I looked at the Cartier tank and there's no way you're getting Bond with the Roman numerals. No way.
No,
So
no,
that
it's not happening.
immediately X that. And this exact, like, bro, A plus, because this is more, they always compare the two, the Reverso and the tank, but this is closer to the tank than your typical Reverso because of that square face.
Yeah,
So kudos.
I love it.
This literally is almost the route I went for my Sean pick. Almost. I was looking at the it was like a 60s Omega. It was like D6682.
But like Sean, I can see wearing just a typical Reverso.
So yeah, it was actually the watch that JFK wore. I thought it was like very simple, very
Oh, yeah,
understated.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I wanted to go that route, but then I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I thought it was just too much power. JFK and Sean Connery wearing the same watch. I was like, the world's not ready for something like that.
Mhm. Guys, I'm not gonna lie, I can't do this podcast because I'm just like trying to buy something right now.
Yeah.
Like that one you
Welcome-
said,
welcome
Welcome
to
to
Lorenzo,
our
first.
world. We talk
I
about
know.
watches.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
Lorenzo,
everything we
your
wanna buy.
last watch, it was on Crown and Caliber for 2,500. I was like, that's not bad. That's not
Mhm.
bad.
Just do it.
Oh my
Provocative.
God.
Gets
Yeah, it was like
going.
starting at $100 a month with a firm. I'm like, I can get approved. We're
Yeah,
doing it.
it's
Just
fine.
do it.
It's fine. Yeah.
We're doing it.
Whatever. You just ask for forgiveness later before you're still
Yeah.
married.
Yep.
Okay,
That's it
so
for
I
me,
guess I got to round it out. Huh? I
Take
gotta
it
bring
home, Schmidt.
with DC. Okay, so DC, honestly, one of my favorite Bonds ever. I grew up in the Brosnan era as well, and he was certainly my Bond to begin with. But DC really kind of stole my heart, if you will, just
Right
because
there
of the
with you, Schmitty.
rawness, because of the rawness that he brought to the character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brosnan was very suave, very debonair, as you guys have talked about. But DC that opening sequence in Casino,
Yep.
where he's just fighting people, he's murdering everybody in this embassy, he's like throwing people off buildings, like just literally the anti-swamp Bond, trying to earn his 00, that kind of whole thing. I felt like he needed something that was the tool watch. And I think over his entire tenure as Bond, it's kind of been what he's been looking for. And I know from DC that he didn't particularly love the 300 meter, but the 300 meters really where the Bond connection and Omega start. So I had to go with an Omega myself to steal a page out of Lorenzo's book. But specifically, I wanted something that was stealthy.
So I picked the No Time to Die, and that's it. That's the show.
Thanks for coming on, everyone. See you later.
guys later.
Schmitty, great pick.
So I wanted to pick something that was stealthy, that was sleek, very much of modern materials and creation. And so I chose the Seamaster 300 meter black.
I was gonna say it's the Stealth Black. I knew.
Yeah.
It's this
Saw
watch
it
to me when it came out last year was a home run watch. And I know that there's not been a lot of people who have seen this watch in stores. For whatever reason, Omega's been really holding back deliveries of this watch. I don't know why. Everyone that I talked to have not seen one, but
Neither
this
did
watch
Todd.
I have seen in person, and it is absolutely amazing. The color, the finishing, and everything. Like this to me is and should be the next generation Type Seamaster. We started Daniel Craig's tenure with a 300 meter in Casino. We finish it with a 300 meter in a new material in titanium. If I was going to put him in a new watch, I would want both of those ideas to be replicated again in something different. I would want a 300 meter, but in a new material and do it in ceramic. And I think that is something that's kind of maybe what's going to happen for the next Bond. And I hope that it does, because I think Omega's at that point now where you need diversity of material in that collection too. And I think this would be certainly a great watch, not only for Daniel Craig, but maybe for a future Bond. So that's me. That's my pick. I think it's an amazing watch. I've seen it in person. And if you haven't, go check it out. It's probably the sexiest all black watch I've ever seen in person ever. So that's it. That's the one I got.
Schmitty, you're turning me on so much right now.
I was gonna say I'm about
You're
to take my
hitting
watch
all-
off. But I need to put my Seamaster on, man. Oh my
Oh
god.
man, you're hitting all my favorite notes right now.
I almost
New-
put Dalton
new
in this. And
materials.
I
new-
didn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know this is what you want. I was watching your video that you did with David Zaritsky. Shout out to David at the Bond Experience. But I love the fact that you brought up the ceramic and the GMT and the Planet Ocean. But I think this one's just a little bit sleeker. It's a little
no,
bit thinner.
I agree.
you know?
The only reason I didn't pick this one was because I just know when it comes to the like being able to read it in a stealth situation, that's what everyone's going to bring up, and that's the part where I almost like bucked from it because of that reason.
That's
and
what the markers are for.
And you know what though? If it's anything like taking a page out of Pierce's book, we get trapped in a little snow balloon thing.
Just add a
You
light
hit a
to
button
it.
and the dial
Mhm.
glows itself. It's like, get
Boom.
out of
Yeah.
here. Little
But no,
movie magic
folks,
never hurt anybody.
Omega will not sell it with that button.
I almost
true.
put Dalton in this, but you
That's
hit.
true.
You said it. You said it, Schmidt. Sleek. It's too sleek for Tim. It's
Yeah,
not.
I love that
It's not
pick.
rough enough for Tim.
Lorenzo, I do think it would be an epic troll though if they had Connery lift the wrist up with the lighter, and it's an all black watch you can't read.
That would, dude.
Is that the Omega Bond watches and Bro Dinky meme that we didn't know we just collaborated on?
I think that one's coming. I think there's a few coming from this episode.
Make
I
it.
think there's
That
some
would
good
be
ones.
Make it.
hilarious. That would be hilarious.
Oh man, it's funny because you said like a lot of people haven't seen it. Two of my friends own them. I sold two of my friends this watch, and I've had a lot of time with this watch, and
Mhm.
it's just so different. That's the best way I can describe it, and it's
beautiful.
just so good. Like
Yeah.
I can't even. So my one buddy, he did not like the rubber strap. He's like not about that life, and I was like, all right, so what do you want to do? And he did it on a Cordera deployment.
Ooh.
Speedmaster. It is just, and there's a couple pictures on my page I posted back when he got it, but it just makes it look so good. Like
Throw
this-
it on the
tactical.
Spectre.
Very
Spectre NATO. Look incredible on the Spectre NATO.
ooh,
Well, I mean, because and there's a standard one that's the ceramic titanium, and it comes on the 5 stripe gray and black NATO.
Yep.
It's not
Mhm.
quite as all black.
That's the one I
But-
thought you were gonna pick.
I mean, I love that one, but I just for me, this one is just it's so different than
Yeah.
anything else that DC's ever worn.
Yeah.
And I think it's the next evolution for what should be considered for maybe a new generation of Bond watch.
Yeah.
Omega's got it on their site right now on that brown Navo Napa leather strap. Even that, dude. It's like new realms of pleasure here, guys.
I know it's a bad problem to have. This is why
Yeah.
watches are bad to talk about
It's a terrible problem.
because you always want to buy them. That's it. That's
Talking
what
about it
happens.
this much with you guys and finding things you haven't seen before. Yeah, this makes it a lot worse.
Yeah.
So I'll see you guys in another like 8 months when I'm
So I've got my head in
off
my
of
hand.
high.
That's a great pick, man. It's a great pick.
Thank you.
Oh,
I could
Thank
see if you've got another Daniel Craig-esque, new actors, a younger Daniel Craig that would just fit him perfectly. Just a younger, hungrier version
Well,
of Daniel
and
Craig.
what's funny about this? So I mean, you and I and Lorenzo have talked about this off air about who we want our next pick to be,
Mhm.
and I'm in the Henry Cavill camp for sure. What's interesting though is if you guys can go back. There was literally a Men's Health cover that he shot like in 2018, where he's wearing the ceramic titanium 300 meter,
love
Oh,
and
Very nice.
it's the previous version to this one. But
it. Love it.
if that's any foreshadowing to what potentially could be, I'm all for it.
hmm
All
I mean,
for
it would be good for him. The 43.5 millimeter too. I mean, bigger dude, bigger
Yeah.
watch. Not 47 millimeters. Not something, too crazy.
Well, the way I understand it is Omega did that because of black being more of a slimming look,
Yeah.
with materials and stuff. They upsized it for that reason alone.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I've heard that through some people at Omega.
I mean, this one I've got on is a 41 millimeter, and every time I put it on, I'm like, this is a 38 at best.
What do you got on?
It's that Atelier Jalapere. Yeah, right. Don't be jealous. There's an
Okay.
Aston Martin in here. Did you say you're not a fan?
Not a fan.
Have you seen one in person? No.
Oh,
That's right. Shut your face. It's not my favorite. It's not my least favorite. It's not my favorite. It's not my least favorite. Anyway, Schmitty, good pick. Good pick.
Thank you.
I thought you were gonna wear your diver with a NATO on it. You broke my heart.
Yeah, I
Oh,
didn't have
me?
time. I'll put it on right now. I
Yeah.
thought about wearing the vintage. So they're like, what are you going to like a black tie after
Well,
this?
I mean, I guess you threw all your watches in the trash earlier per that guy's request.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Oh my
that
gosh.
guy, man. Hopefully he's not
nerd
listening to
level.
this. If you're listening to this, which you might very well be, I have nothing to say to you. See how well
Wow,
behaved I am?
my boy has grown up. I'm so
See how
proud
well
of him.
behaved I am? I have nothing.
That is not
I
how
wish
it go
you
down on
nothing
one
but the
instrument.
best.
We are
Emphasis on the
starting-
nothing.
Our next episode, we're starting off with that. We're gonna go full rip on that one. Blunt instrument style.
It's gonna be like a hangover from not swearing in this one to just unleashing on this guy.
Oh, I feel bad for our listeners. Our next episode is gonna be pure cursing the whole way through.
Yep. So no Gruins. No Gruins. You don't want to throw a hypothetical Gruen on Sean Connery again?
I'm surprised you didn't pick a Shine All there, buddy.
Oh, no way. No way.
Being from Detroit,
You know how I feel about
D
Shinola.
Town. Whoop, whoop.
I've got a little insider information on that business, the business side of Shinola, and it's just
They're
embarrassing.
gonna close down, and start making mittens.
They might be in a better position to do so. I don't know.
I saw my first Shinola store when I was in was it Cherry Creek in Denver. And I sent my paisan here a photo of it. And I was like, I don't know if I should go in or just laugh at it.
See, this is the thing. This is the thing. In fairness to them, they are, they're assembled in Detroit, but they are Swiss watches. The problem is the price point. If you're gonna spend $1,500 on a watch, then just go buy a tag.
I'm getting a
You know what I
tag.
mean? Yeah, why are you
1000%
here?
I'm getting a tag.
That's 100% the problem.
Yeah,
Truth
it
be
is what
told,
it is.
I almost bought a tag. I almost did. I
That
was
was a sexy pick.
very close to doing it.
That looks a hell of a lot like
What,
the
the night
Spectre
diver or
NATO.
what?
Yeah, and I told him. So I went to this event. They invited me to this event
Oh, with
at Top
Alex.
Golf,
Mhm.
and they had it there, and I was like, I was trying it on. I was, telling my wife, I was like, God, I really like this watch. It reminds me of the old Bond one that our buddy Timmy wore. And
Mhm.
I asked him, I was like, do you have a bracelet to go with this? And they're like, no.
Nope.
And I was like, sorry.
Nope.
Like I need the bracelet. Like I can look past the octagon, bezel. I could all those things. That was like the breaking point for me. I don't want to go rubber strap on that watch. I want it on a bracelet.
Well, did they do that anti
They
with the
do
black the
they do
anti-scratch?
DLC, and back
Yeah.
then they did PVD.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's if
They
you
all
bought it.
equally scratch off. So
Yeah, if you do it with the rubber strap, just beat the hell out of it.
if I'm going to spend that kind of money on a watch, I want it to be exactly how I want it.
Yeah, that is true. It's a lot more.
I don't spend
pricey than
$3,000
that.
just to kind of like something. I spend $3,000 to love it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's wise
that's-
words. Absolutely.
that's the beauty of collecting. That's why I never understand why someone's like, oh, I really want this Seamaster, but I'm going to spend $700 on this thing that kind of looks like it. I'm like, dude, just wait. Keep your
Teddy
money.
Baldessar. That's the Teddy Baldessar.
I love Teddy. Teddy's the
Well,
man.
Teddy can get whatever he wants now these days. It's not a big
No,
deal.
no,
for him.
no. He did a video and it was like top 10 watches not to buy. And I thought it was literally just going to gaslight a bunch of watches. And I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And it was the opposite. He was just like, if you want the No Time to Die, don't go in and buy a DeVille just because you have the money for the DeVille. We're like, well, yeah. Tell me something I didn't know as I walk out of the store
okay,
with
I
two
missed that
DeVilles.
episode. I missed that episode.
Yeah.
But anybody else got anything else? Good.
I feel like I want to hear more from bro.
I do too.
Well, it was tough for me. I mean, obviously, I took Lazenby on purpose because he's kind of like the joke of the bunch. But when I think Bond in the roles that I've seen him in, definitely the more Daniel Craig's and things. Thinking away from Omega, I think a company like maybe like a Zinn or something that makes some really badass watches that are meant to be, for people like special forces and things like that, make a lot of sense to me. For Brosnan, I can't get away from the Seamaster. That Seamaster is Brosnan to me. That's it's so hard for me to pick another watch for him because again, I grew up with Brosnan. In the game, he still got it right. You hit the pause button, and that Seamaster
It's
pops
there.
up, right? And
Right.
you just think about, you're pushing the button, you're getting the laser. It's so hard to pick another one for him. And obviously, Connery's kind of the same thing with the sub, but
I did my best, bro.
yeah, no, I mean, no, you guys had
It's-
great picks, and I think they were all over the place, and they definitely weren't like down the middle baseball that I think a lot of people go into these episodes expecting.
Mm-hmm.
I think people probably expected some Omega, some Rolex, and they got that, but they didn't get the exactly what I just said. They didn't get the Blue Seamaster is perfect for Brosnan. All I did was bring it into the present. All I did was select the newer one with the better technology in it. No, you got some different takes and things. And even though we didn't weasel in a Gruen or anything anywhere, I think we did them some justice.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Totally agree.
I'm glad there's no Gruen in there.
I have a question for you guys. So if you say Omega disappears off the face of the earth, what brand do you see taking up the mantle? I mean, I have my pick. It's been the same for the last 3 years, but I want to hear what you guys have. And Schmitty, I know you know what my pick is.
I mean, for sure. I mean,
It's
logically
changed.
speaking,
Hmm?
there's really only two brands that could potentially make sense in a modern context, and that would be Tudor and or Bremont.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Raymond's my pick.
I thought Tudor immediately as sort of just an Omega sort of analog.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as competition goes, that's kind of where my brain goes immediately. I'm trying
Yeah.
to think otherwise.
Bro, I'm right there with you. I was Tudor for sure. Price point's fantastic too.
Yeah.
I can't get past that snowflake hand. Can't do it. I've tried.
I like him.
I can't do it.
Yeah, bros owned many a tutor. So
I love their what is it? Their what was it? Tom Cruise wears their chronograph in
Oh, the
Ghost
Monte
Protocol.
Carlo, the home
Yeah.
plate. Yeah.
I love
That's
to
actually.
watch.
I can't believe nobody had any IWCs today.
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
I'm surprised
It's
by that.
very military. But
Yeah, but we're talking about a
American.
guy that was in the military.
Yeah.
there's not a suaveness with an IWC.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
that to me is very functional.
No, that would have been maybe another Dalton option.
Yeah.
I love that Bremont, that one Schmidt you told me about, the one that you have to eject out of a jet to be able to get one.
Oh yeah, the Martin Baker.
Yeah. It's
Oh, I
sick.
love that watch, dude.
So
That is
cool.
just such a sick watch.
Yeah, the Martin
Love it.
Baker's really cool.
I'd love to use that kind of process and do it in like a slate gray and make that Bond's like tactical watch.
Yeah,
That'd be sick.
actually, the jeweler that I got the whole vintage Seamaster debacle. The jeweler that fixed that, they had a pre-owned one, and there was only like $3,800.
Hmm.
Pre-owned what?
Martin Baker.
I don't know what that is.
We just talked about what it is.
A Martin Baker?
Yeah, it's the
The
Bremont.
Bremont Martin Baker.
That's the one that's the
That
ejection.
you have to
'Cause
eject
it's the
out of-
Mar-
Oh, I
it's
didn't
the
know that
Mar-
was the name of it.
Yeah.
He
What?
just said it.
Wait, he had one in there?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No way.
Swear to God.
For 3,800?
I can try to find it. This was like a week ago.
Does he still have it?
We'll find out.
I'll literally swipe the Amex right now for it.
Does he take
You
a
know-
firm?
Those things are
Does he
freaking
take a
rare.
firm? Oh my
It's right
god.
here. It's right here. Is there a chat? Is there a chat in this? It's got to be right.
Good question.
We've
Hard
actually
swipe.
never used it.
Ask
If you
questions
buy
later.
this, do not tell Cassandra that.
I'm telling her you told me to do it.
No. There you go.
Oh, there it is.
Let's see
Let's
if
see
it's the
this.
right one. I don't know if it's the right one. Is it the right one?
Oh, I'll know right as soon as I see it. See, it's popping up. It's
Yeah,
popping.
it is.
No, I want the tan one. You know which one I'm talking about.
Oh,
Not
okay,
that
sorry.
one. The tan one. Come on.
I mean, it's still a Martin Baker.
It's still badass. Don't get me wrong.
Which-
but
which-
it's-
Technically, you're not even supposed to be able to buy because
Exactly.
you can only get them for ejecting out of a Martin Baker. Ejection seat. So
That's the only way. That's the qualification. So you have to
Are you talking
go
about like
jump.
the tan with the tan strap?
Yeah.
yeah, it's the newest one.
So
That
sick.
yeah.
I love that watch. Can't even find the chat now. Oh, there it is. No, that's a sick watch. I really like that one.
Looks like it's in good shape too.
You getting commission over there?
Maybe. You never know.
We're gonna get you in your No Time to Die. That's what's gonna happen next.
All right. And with that, I think we could put a bow on this one. Boys, thank you so much for joining us. Again, they are the Blunt Instrument Podcast. Lorenzo, Luke, thanks so much. Schmidt, as always, it's been a lot of fun. Guys, unless there's anything else, take this one out.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah,
Great
absolute
time.
pleasure.
Great
Thanks.
time chatting with you guys.
Yeah,
We'll have to have you guys on ours.
yeah, for sure. For
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
And we could really rip things up over there, I hear.
Mhm.
Cut as loose as you want.
That's it. Well, all right, folks, thanks for joining us. I know this was a long one, but I think it's been plenty informative and a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us on Wrist Cheese Radio. We'll catch you next time. Deuces.
Thanks, guys.